I realize that contempt is not a big deal to our Attorney General, but it is important that we have proper oversight.
Buddy.
So
you don't want to go there, okay?
I don't want to go there. So I don't need lectures from you about contempt.
And I don't need lectures from you
difficult.
either.
Wow. Can you say tense exchange this week after Congressman Louis Gohmert demanded documents from Attorney General Eric Holder and has for the past couple of years? Gohmert thinks those documents could prove the administration is playing favorites. He also wants terror documents as relate to CARE, ignoring cases like Fast and Furious. But the Attorney General sees it another way. It's because he's black?
You look at the way the Attorney General of the United States was treated yesterday by a House committee. Had nothing to do with me. Forget that. What Attorney General has ever had to deal with that kind of treatment? What president has ever had to deal with that kind of treatment?
Joining us right now, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. Senator, he's indicating that, welcome, thanks for getting up with us first up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just some real serious stuff off the top. It's not about the issues, it's about the race. Your reaction?
Well, that's called pivoting. The bottom line is you ought to provide the documents. When you have the President of the United States saying, I can do what I need to do with a pen and a phone, you've already set the stage for a real confrontational relationship with a co-equal branch of the United States government. That is a bad decision on the President's part, and not providing the documents to the House Oversight Committee, the Judiciary Committee, is also a bad decision on the administration's part, including Eric Holder's.
Right, I should have done a better job in the beginning. That's at Al Sharpton's National Action Network, so it was an event honoring Attorney General Holder to speak there. But do you believe, when I look at that, I see a difference in parties and principles. I don't see skin color. Am I the only one?
I don't, and listen, I see it the way you see it. The bottom line is simply this, that in partisan politics, when one side of the aisle simply says that we're going to ignore and avoid even dealing with the House of Representatives, you find yourself in a confrontational relationship with those members of the House. And that is the result of going it alone. And when you make the decision that you can avoid laws, decide not to enforce laws, that you can figure out the Fast and Furious on your own or not figure it out at all, you provide no information in Benghazi, you consistently have a pattern that simply says to the House of Representatives, you are not a co-equal.
So if that was Ashcroft or Meese, they'd be treated the same way.
Gonzalez, it's consistent with the history of our presidents, the last 4 presidents.
Lawmakers voting later today on whether former IRS official Lois Lerner should be held in contempt of Congress for twice refusing to testify about the targeting scandal. This, as a House committee yesterday voted to formally ask the DOJ, Department of Justice, to consider criminal charges. So what does all this mean? Joining us right now, senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. Good morning to you.
Hey, Steve.
First of all, you know, she's shown up on Capitol Hill to testify, but then she has gone and said, I plead the Fifth. Has she forfeited her Fifth Amendment rights? That's a good question.
It's a great question, and unfortunately the answer is a little ambiguous. If she had just said, I declined to testify because of my right to remain silent, there'd be no dispute that she had not forfeited that right to remain silent. But she didn't do that. The first time she was there, she said, I didn't do anything wrong. I followed the IRS procedures. Leave me alone. P.S. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. So? Some cases say if you say anything beyond invoking the right to remain silent, you've waived the right to remain silent, because you can't pick and choose what questions to answer and what questions not to answer. Some cases say, oh, a simple little general bland denial like that is not a waiver of the privilege.
Right. What about later today they're going to vote on whether to find her in contempt of Congress?
That is essentially meaningless. They have held Eric Holder in contempt of Congress. For contempt of Congress,
still got his job.
Okay, so listen to what has to happen. You'll like this. For contempt of Congress to have teeth, the contempt citation has to be sent to the Justice Department, which has to prosecute the person being held in contempt. They're obviously not going to prosecute their own boss, Eric Holder, and he's not going to authorize them to prosecute this lady who used to work in the administration.
Okay, so for the next point, they've got a graphic for criminal case to DOJ. That's what they did. They sent a complaint over yesterday. You've just answered the question. Eric Holder's not going to do it. Now, you have an interesting take on a couple of things. First of all, should she be given immunity so she can spill the beans?
Well, the interesting thing about immunity is she can be given immunity against her will. Immunity means the whole House of Representatives votes that she can never be prosecuted. They get a federal judge to agree. The federal judge signs the immunity order, and part of the immunity order says, thou shalt testify. If she violates that order, the federal judge will incarcerate her for violating the judge's order, and you don't even need the DOJ.
Well, then that seems like a no-brainer. That's how to get her to talk.
I hope Congressman Ice is listening, because we've got to get to the bottom of this. The people have a right to know what abuses the IRS visited upon us and what political motivation the IRS had and what higher-up knew about this.
You have one other observation, and because they've sent the criminal complaint over to the Department of Justice headed by Eric Holder, you say Eric Holder should be impeached.
You know, I watched the back and forth with Congressman Gohmert, and in fairness, he's a friend of mine, he's a former judge, we've conferred a lot. I thought that Eric Holder's behavior was so contemptuous of what the Congress would expect of an attorney general. The president won't do anything. Impeach him! Force the president of the, because he's not enforcing the laws, force the president of the United States to nominate a new attorney general. All that can be done without the president's involvement and against his wishes.
And the odds of that happening?
Very slim.
All right, of course.
Very slim in an election year, Steve.